Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Elisa Harney, the Empowerment Specialist. And you know what? I wanted to do a quick pop up live and teach a quick strategy. And I'm excited about teaching this strategy because I think it is going to be so helpful in so many different components of our lives. And so I am doing this as just an unplanned live pop up and but I'm so excited about the benefits that I think of teaching this very simple strategy, and I am very excited about what it could mean for you in different aspects of your life. And so you should grab your notebooks and you should grab your note-taking app because it's going to be a very quick strategy, a lesson. I actually want to give you an implementable, executable strategy for success, and one that you can apply in different areas of your life. And so, if you're just tuning in, thank you. If you're watching the replay, hello and welcome. If you're watching me for the first time, let me know. This again was completely unplanned, but something that I really was interested. It just came upon me like this is a good strategy to really teach. That might be a good strategy for us as we're pivoting in different areas of our lives. And so I decided to just go live on all the platforms here at the same time and just begin to teach this strategy. So, really quickly, who am I? I'm known as the Empowerment Specialist. I am a coach, I'm a strategist, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and I help get people positioned to prosper in their purpose. One of the things that I am especially passionate about is to help today's leaders expand their platform, their profits, their performance, and their presence with progressive sustainability, which is proven strategies for sustainability. And so, how to obtain something and how to retain it, how to maintain it. And so, really quickly, I want to teach a strategy, and I'll tell you what the strategy is for. And then I'm going to give you the strategy in a very clear, concise way so that you can take it and implement it into different areas of your life. Now, if you are a person and you're saying that I always feel like my hands are tied, I always feel like I can't ever be released to go into what I really want to work on, what I really want to do, what I really want, because I'm not able to do. I feel like, if I take my hands off of it, it's not going to work. If I take my hands off of it, it's not going to be successful. I have to continue to do this to maintain it. And so I'm not able to be effective in the area of my life that I actually really want to be. This is the strategy for you. If you are saying that I'm in a place where I'm ready to let go of something so that I can begin some new things, this is the strategy for you. If you're in a place, if you are in business, if you are in ministry, even if you are a parent and you're trying to shift to the next level of responsibility and accountability for what you feel like you are called or purpose to do, then this simple strategy of secession, I believe, is going to help you. And so I'm not going to be here long. I just want to give you this implementable strategy that's really going to help you in business, in the workplace. It will help you in parenting. It will probably help you in a lot of different areas. But I really just want you to be aware of this strategy of secession. So, one of the first things that I want to talk about is the definition of secession. And a lot of the times when we think about secession, we think about something or someone coming after us. When something succeeds us, when you're dealing with secession, you're thinking about I need to pass something on. Something is coming behind me. When you think about the secession of royalty and the monarchy, you think about there is a secession of this is who's king or queen, and then this person, and then after this, then this happens. If you're thinking about the secession in probably business or a corporation, you're thinking about something that I call the hierarchy of help. Who is at the top, and then who's under them, and then who do I answer to? And so secession means then there is this implementable strategy of what comes next or who comes next. I think a lot of the times we get caught up and we get stuck in what I call call a cycle of inertia, where there is motion but there is no movement, is because we don't have a strategy of secession. We're not sure how to position ourselves to release what we have in order to obtain what we don't have yet. And so a lot of the times, then, if you are a parent and you don't have a strategy of secession, then you may feel as though you're still raising grown kids. You're saying, I still feel like I have to have my hands in everything. I'm still having to help them do this. I'm still having to do this. If you are in business and you're saying, look, I need to be the CEO now. I don't just want to be the business owner. I need to manage. I need to put my hands on other things, and I need other people to do what they need to step up and do a thing. If you are in ministry and you're saying, listen, here's the overall vision, but I can't execute and be all things at all times. And so I don't see progression in certain levels, and it's not profitable for me to be trying to be one hit and a wonder. And so that means we need a secession strategy. We need a strategy of secession. We need something that we can execute and implement that's going to bring things after us. And so one of the things, when we look at the word secession, we understand that the root of secession is success. The root of secession, when we think about something or someone seceding us in what we do, we think about the root, which is success. You can't succeed without secession, and you can't. And so there's no way that you can have a succession and not succeed, because they're intertwined. And so I think that a lot of the reasons why we do not see certain levels of success in certain aspects of our lives, again, this can be relationally, this can be in business or ministry or any type of, this can even be organizationally. We don't have this strategy of secession. And so a very quick 4-point, I think, it's a 4-point strategy that I believe that if you just take it and implement it, very simple. I'm making it very simplistic. I'm not going to get into the philosophy of the steps, but I do want to give you something that you can actually take and implement in your life and start seeing yourself being released. Now, before I give you the strategy of secession, let me tell you why it's so important to have this. It's important to have this because if you don't have a strategy for secession, you're going to remain stuck. You're going to remain stuck. You're going to be in this place where you feel like a car stuck in the mud. You're going to feel like I have all of this momentum. The engines are running, the gas tank is full, and everything is functional, and I just want to go, but I feel stuck. And it's because I don't have a strategy of secession. I have not put together something that's going to allow me to get out of where I am into where I would like to be. And so if you don't develop a strategy of secession, you're going to find yourself spinning your wheels. What happens to a car when it is stuck in the mud too long? It's going to now begin to lose, the gas is going to get low. You may begin to start leaking oil. The tires are going to get worn down, and eventually the engine will lock, and it's going to cost you more to get that car pulled out of the mud and then recreate it basically than it will to say, wait a minute, I feel like I'm getting ready to get in a place that might keep me captive. How do you know you need a strategy of secession? Because you're still having to do everything in one particular pocket of your purpose, or one particular pocket of a project. You're the person that is handling everything. So, you're the person who comes up with the idea, and then you're the person who organizes it, and then you're the person that executes it, and then you're the person that goes in and realigns it, and you're the person that all of these different parts of that mechanic. You're seeing that if you are not a component, if you do not have your hands on it, it's going to fall, or if it's going to falter. And so how do I know that I don't have a secession strategy? Is because every time something comes up, I have to be hands on. I have to be in it. I have to do it. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. If I don't look over all of it, it's going to be done wrong. If I don't handle it from start to finish, I can't guarantee that it is going to be successful. And so again, we're not successful because we don't have a strategy of secession. And it is scary when you start thinking about secession, even though there's a level of comfort that secession gives you. It provides a level of comfort because you're saying, finally, I can let something go. But if you're not careful, because we may be dealing with internal dysfunctions of unhealthy codependency, we may feel like, but wait a minute, but who am I if you're not always calling me or talking to me or trying to get my input, and if I'm not the person that you're calling in. And so a lot of the times, while the reason we will avoid implementing what I'm going to teach, this strategy of secession, is because we have this need to feel needed. We have this desire to always be desired, and so we wear it like a badge, but it's really a burden. And so it feels good on the front end that people can call. It sounds something like, oh, we don't know what we would do if you weren't here, or I wouldn't know my head from my feet if you weren't a part of this, or we don't know, we can't do this without you. And on the front end, it sounds like, oh my goodness, you're that amazing and you're that great, that it works like that. But the truth of the matter is, you're not positioned properly to prosper in your purpose if you don't have this strategy of secession, if it doesn't work without you, if you can't take your hands off of it, if they'll just stop and it won't move if you're not a part of it, if nobody knows what to do when you're not connected, if everything falls apart and it's not profitable when you're not present, there's a problem. Can I say it again? If things are not profitable when you're not present, there's a problem. And so it is so necessary that if you are going to evolve in leadership as a leader in any area of your life, if you're going to evolve and be successful, then you need a strategy of secession. And so this strategy is a very simple strategy. I'm going to break it down. It's only 4 parts. And if you implement this strategy, no matter if you're dealing with your children, no matter if you're dealing with your church, no matter if you're dealing with colleagues, no matter if you're dealing with cohorts, this is going to help you. And so, number 1, the first part of the first step in the strategy of succession, if you're ready to leave a place and go into a new one, number 1 is train. Number 1 is train. Now, this is where we miss the mark a lot of the times. We have to understand that people are not mind readers, and that people can be around us, watching us do something or hearing us talk about what we do, and still not be able to implement and execute at the same level. And so a lot of the reason why we miss this mark on number 1, which is train, is because we are not sometimes even mindful of what we do. We just know we get up, we wing it and try to win it. We just know that we just feeling it. We just going with the wind. And so we're just haphazardly doing something. And so in order to train, step 1, in order to train, I've got to be able to understand the process of what I do and how I do it. I can't train somebody if I don't have a map, if I don't have a roadmap, if I don't have a blueprint. And so when I'm talking about training somebody because I want them to succeed me, I want to operate in this strategy of secession, I'm ready to let something go so I can do something else, then I've got to understand, if I don't have an organized, documented way, a documented, viable way of doing something, then I can't pass it off to somebody else. Now, we know the strategy of this. Inadvertently, we do things like this. We pass down recipes, or we pass down certain things that we do. Well, why do you do that? Well, I do it because my mom did it like this. Or, well, how do you know? Why do you always do this first and not this? Well, because when my granddad does it, he does. And so there are certain things that we just kind of think that we take it by osmosis. I'm close enough to you that I can just assume you do this. But that is not strategic, and that is not going to give you documented, repeatable success in your progression. And so you've got to be able to train, but I can't train if I can't teach, right? And so I always say that I don't teach what I don't reach. And the reason I don't do this is because if I'm going to teach somebody something, then I've had to reach a certain level of accomplishment in that thing, which means I can go back and I can tell you what it is. I can tell you how I do it. I can tell you when it's applicable. I can tell you when not to do it. I can tell you the currency of it. I can tell you when you shouldn't, when you should go left, when it's time to pivot. And so train has everything to do with you developing documentation. Okay. And so when we talk about train, I think what happens is we immediately think about what somebody else needs from us. What are we actively doing to prepare somebody else? But we don't think about the part that we have to do for ourselves. And so I need a documented way. I need to sit down and say, this is how I do this. If you do something the same way every time and get a certain result, guess what? Congratulations, you have a strategy, you have a system. But a lot of the times, our systems are something that we hide in our minds. We don't understand that these systems are really trade secrets, and these systems are really strategies that are going to help us be successful in a certain way, but documented. I remember working at one of the largest nonprofits in the world, and I remember there was an older lady that was she was who I called the key holder. She was the administrator, one of the main administrators, and she would be at the front desk, and she would automatically know a lot of things. She'd been there so long, she knew a lot of things without thinking. She didn't have to look anything up. She could tell you everybody's passcodes. She could tell you everybody's extensions. She could tell you how that what all the passwords were for certain things. She just knew it. And I noticed that there was this culture of codependency that had been developed, which is a lot of the times what we do in the natural. A lot of the times we do this in motherhood and parenting and ministry in our organization. We have a culture of codependency. And so I would notice that people would come in and they would just stop by the front desk to ask her questions. Now, there were a few documents that sat around where people could look things up for themselves, but they didn't. It was just easier and it was more comfortable to ask the person who was there. And so this older lady who was the administrator, they would just come in and they would ask her questions and she would just give answers. And I began to get nervous one day because I wondered to myself, well, what would happen if she were not in position? Wonder what happens when she has to take a bathroom break. Wonder what happens when she's out to lunch. Well, I would watch, and what they would do is they would just wait for her to come back. And so if she were doing something, they would say, well, I don't know what we're going to do right now. She's gone. And so we'll wait for her to come back and then we'll do it. And so I began to get very uneasy about that culture of codependency because it told me that there was a lack of training. There was no training. And so one day the inevitable happened. She got sick. And as an older lady, I think she maybe had broke something and was going to be out permanently. And so everybody began scrambling, and everything was in disarray. There was everything was everywhere. Nobody knew where to find stuff. Nobody knew passwords. Nobody knew the process of getting into certain stuff because this lady had accumulated all of this information and it was here, but it was nowhere else. And so what we began to do and what I began to say was, I understand that there was a system that she had internally, but because we can't get access to this stuff, we're going to have to zero out and we're going to have to start over, update and upgrade. And then we're going to have to document the way that we do this so that we can create a file. This was back when, you remember when we used to have those binders and you would laminate, have either laminate the pages or, now they have those little drop-ins that you can secure them and then you could tuck something in the front cover and design something and stick it in and put it in the front. I was like, we've got to go back to these binder days where and let's slap some tabs on them. I should be able to come to this book and I should be able to look it up in the categories because we need a strategy of secession. And what was happening and what does happen is we become so overly dependent on an individual that we don't understand the prominence of the process. Can I just say that again? We become so overly dependent on the individual that we don't understand the prominence of the process. And so what happens is we need to understand that the process is bigger than the person. I'm teaching better than y'all in this comment section. Again, I wanted to give a strategy tonight. The process is bigger than the person. And so we lost that somewhere. And I began to notice that everybody was just saying, well, Mrs. Such and Such did it like this. And Mrs. Such and Such got all that. And I got to call Mrs. Such and Such. But the process is bigger than the person. And so what we needed was the documented process. So whether the person was present or not, we could still proceed. And that's where we get scared sometimes. That's right, information management systems. That's where sometimes we get, that's where our codependency, that's where some of that dysfunction, emotional dysfunction comes in, because we're afraid to give away secrets, right? We think it's a secret. We're afraid that, well, if I tell them how to do it, then what will they need me for? Well, hopefully something bigger and something better. At some point, you've got to decide, do I want everybody to keep calling me when they need to order something? Or can I just show them where to order it for themselves so that I can do something else and be more productive with my time and with my attention? Do I always want people pulling me out of my ability to go on vacation because I've got to continue to put out all of these small fires? They can't do it for themselves, but there is some kind of relief that you get when your phone is always ringing and you get to say, oh, Lord, let me take this call. They don't know what they'll do if I wasn't there. That's unhealthy. You need a strategy of succession. And so this is where we mess up at a lot of the times, is we don't realize that we're dealing with familiarity over functionality. Yeah, I'm teaching. Thank y'all for sharing. We deal with familiarity over functionality. We would rather default to someone or something that we are familiar with, and we don't understand and recognize the functionality that's required for that. And so when the familiar is gone, and we're forced to deal with functionality, we have no idea about how to do it. And so, number one in this strategy of succession, you've got to be able to train, and you can't train if you have not documented your steps. If you have not documented, that's right, you document to delegate. I need us to understand it. We feel anxious, but when we understand, and just let's think about this for a moment. If you think about any level of process and you stay so hands on, let's say you are trying to release a book and you're trying to do everything. You already got to write the book, and then you want to design the cover, and then you want to edit it, and then you want to find out where you're going to get it manufactured at, and then that's a lot. Listen, delegate. So document so that you can delegate. Look, I'm documenting. This is the concept. This is what I would like. I need to concentrate on writing the book. Let me deal with the manuscript. You can design it, but yet we will spend hours and hours and hours over a design that probably is going to look amateur, when we could have allowed somebody else, because we've documented it, to take the reins of that. And so even with our children, like I said, this is applicable in all areas. We want our children to do things, but they're constantly calling us, and they're constantly, I remember that my daughter, she would always, even as a younger child, she's 20 now, but she would always go with other people. She would go out with her friends, or she would stay with her godparents, or she was just always somewhere. And then she would always call me when she was at a restaurant. Hey, Ma, how do I like my steak? Hey, Ma, do I eat this? Do I like that? Can you remember? Hey, Ma, what size such and such do I wear? And for a while, I thought it was cute. And I would just tell her. And then at some point, I thought to myself, wait a minute. That's got to be embarrassing that you got to call your mom. Let me sit you down. Let me document it. I'll tell you what. Where's your note app on your phone? So let's go through all of the things that you usually ask me for. One part, and yes, she felt some kind of way, and that's what we have to understand. And I'm just on number one, the train. Yes, she felt some kind of way because, well, Mama, just tell me. Just tell me. But that's not training. And so I realized that I empowered her by giving her this information that she could have for herself. And I'll never forget, when I had to confront my own feelings of neediness. I had to confront my own feelings of wanting to be needed. But I recognized that when she stopped calling me for minute things like that, our conversations had more content. Our conversations were thicker. And I remember she called me earlier today and she said, oh, Mom, I felt like such an adult. I went to the store and after I bought my new phone, because I made her a delegate on the carrier, and she was like, I got my phone, and then I went to buy my privacy screen, and then I went to get these accessories and this and that. And I said, so wow, look at you. And I was proud, because that's part of training. And so, number one in this strategy of secession, we've got to know how to train. We've got to be okay with training. We've got to, I've said this, and I heard my friend Pia Ko saying earlier tonight, I've always said, let go so you can grow, but also let go so they can grow. Okay. So number one in your strategy of succession is to train. Number two, the second step after train is track. 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 Number two, track. So tracking allows you to be able to implement a system, a project management system. I think that we have erroneously attributed tracking to micromanaging, and they are not the same thing. We believe that to track something means that I have to be an integral part of every particular piece of the process, but that is not true. If we really are to step up into this next level of succession and we really want to get to the place where we can oversee, then we just need to be able to track the progress of the project. I just need to see how close we are to the outcome measures. I just need to see if there is anything that's bottlenecked. I just need to see if there's anything that's stopping the flow of progression. I don't need to know everything, but I do need to see it. And so we've got to get to the place where if we're going to have a succession strategy, then we've got to go from micromanaging to tracking. And we track it when we have a project management system. Again, the problem is we're trying to manage the person and not the project. I think you guys, let me say this again for the people in the back. I'm trying to teach strategy, so I'm really trying to stay in my Dr. E mode here. We're trying to manage people and not the project, not the progression of the project. And so a lot of us, a lot of the times, are so people oriented that we don't see the overall goal, the bigger goal. And so, take for example, if I have a team and we have an event coming up, if I set together a project management system, then I don't necessarily have to have a conversation with everybody and see how long they've worked on something. What I'm looking at is I've set deadlines and goals and all these items and action and measures to make sure that there are alerts. I'm just checking the system. I'm just looking to see, are we getting results? Did we meet the mark at this point? Now, if there's something missing, I can go back and say, hey, I can trace it because I tracked it. Uh-oh, I need y'all to hear it. I can trace it because I tracked it. Again, a lot of the times we're trying to track the person. We're trying to do people management over project and process management. We're not looking at the progression of it because we're looking at the person. And so personalities can persuade. Can I help you? If you just look at the person, they can cause you to see what they want you to see. And you can get thrown off by the objective that you're trying to reach because you've gotten inundated by the influence of that person. And you're not really seeing the level of productivity. And so that's those conversations that, well, I'll just go talk to them and I'll just allow them to access me and tell me, what they're working on. And then they can give me their excuses. And then I can say, oh, well, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. There's the problem. And then we wonder why there's not progression. Our projects are being delayed and we're not executing and we don't see any progression. And so it's because we're trying to track people and not projects. But if I have a project management system, I can track it. I traced it because I tracked it. And so if I'm looking at my project management system and I see that we missed a deadline without having a conversation with anybody individually, I can go in and I can say, let me look at these tasks. Let me trace it back. Bam, this was the first missed assignment. Bam, this was a day late, which caused this person couldn't do. So now I can trace it. And so again, it keeps me from having all of these conversations about something. And now I can just say we're having a meeting, not a conversation. I've already tracked it because I could trace it. And I already know where the problem was. I already know who I can come in and say, listen, you didn't execute properly. There's a consequence. And so now I'm not blaming everybody and I'm not fussing at everybody because now I'm going from being people oriented to project and process oriented because there's a procedure. Is this helping? Is this making sense? Is this translating? I'm looking for y'all in the comments. Just put a number one if this information is valuable in helping you guys. Let me see y'all speaking for just a second. Put number one in this in the comment section so that I can just make sure that this is transitioning and translating. Thank you. And so we're tracking, even when it comes to our children. A lot of the times we're so busy trying to stay, tell me everything, and you didn't call me, and why didn't you say this, and then what happened, and I just got to be so emotionally invested on every different aspect. No. So my project management system is, I know that about this time this happens with my daughter, I should get a phone call. I don't have to talk every day, which, well, she's going to call me every single day, 3 times. However, let's say my boys, that wasn't a good example. Let's say my boys, because they're not as communicative. But I do understand, because I understand them, because I understand the process of their growth and maturity and where they are in their lives. I understand different things in their development where there's going to be something, a pivot. I'll be able to understand. And so I will be able to know, you know what? Here's a prime example. One of my children was not good with money, and every time something would come up, it wasn't that they were not making money, but they didn't really understand the totality of budgeting and being resourceful with their finances. And so look like every other week, I would get a phone call begging, or a cash out request, or an excuse about how, I was making the money, but then I was late, and then I had late fees, or I went on vacation and I forgot to auto draft my payments, and I thought I had more money. And so every week there would be a phone call. The way that I was able to document and track the fact that there was a shift was that I stopped getting calls every single week. And I recognize I don't have to talk to you to know that you finally figured it out. Now, part of what I did to help implement that change was that I started declining those cash out requests, and I stopped picking up the phone. I didn't have to have conversations with him every week and hear the excuses and be influenced by that information. I said, no, 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 no. I have a tracking system. I'll know that you're serious about managing your money. The system I will use is that you don't need it from me all of the time. Does that make sense? And so my tracking system, my project management system was, it doesn't matter that you're telling me that, oh, this just happened one time and can you just send money? I'm going to stop being influenced by this information. I'm going to stop having the conversation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tracking system to see. And so when I started seeing that it was months before you needed to call me for money, I understood, there it is. I can track the fact that you're progressing. All right. So that's number 2 in this strategy of succession. Number 3, it's only 4. So 4 steps. I wanted to make it easy, something that you could execute and implement. Number 3, the number 3 step in the strategy of succession is trust. Trust. Now, this is a lot more complicated than it seems. Trust. Trust has a lot to do with external factors, right? So once you have trained your team, your staff, your children, your group, once you have trained, and then you have, which means you've documented the process, and then after you have tracked, which means you have implemented a project management system, number 3 is trust. Now, trust does not mean that you are just in a blind position of letting go. Trust means that you allow them to now exercise their new arena of authority, right? Trust means that this is not secession if I'm still doing it for you. One of the things that I teach in mentorship is that they can't learn the lesson if you're always the solution. Right? So trust means that I am going to take a step back and allow them to operate in their new arena of authority. So I trust that I've documented the process, that I've positioned myself and developed a project, implemented a project management system. And so now what I'm going to do is, in order for me to be able to guide them and to coach them and to cultivate them in this arena, I've got to allow them to do what I've trained them to do. And I've got to allow them to activate those characteristics in them of leadership and skill and authority so that I can see how well or how capable they are in that arena. A lot of the times it's almost like when we're teaching our children a new skill, how to ride a bicycle, or even how to walk, and we're saying, oh Lord, I can't trust you right now with that. Let me do, I got it. I remember, so all my children are grown now. They're 20, 22, and 24, right? But up until, and I am ashamed to admit it, but y'all know I believe that truth plus transparency equals transformation. But up until they were like late teens, I remember I would still fix their plates. And like I would just fix their plates. Like I would cook and then I would fix their plates. And they would be so mad, Mama. Like, we whole teenagers, why are you fixing our plates? And then had the nerve to ask them, what do you want on this plate? Is this enough? How much is it? And I realized it was because in my head, I just thought, y'all gonna mess everything up. Like I can't trust y'all in this kitchen. You're gonna be dipping in the middle of the casserole. You're gonna be knocking stuff, wasting stuff over. Like, I can't trust y'all. And at some point I had to say, hey, those children know what they want to eat. Let them judge how much. Well, I can't. You're not gonna put everything on your plate. Hey, if they don't want to eat it, they're not. And so me doing it is not going to automatically deliver the outcome that I expect. Right. And so I had to pull back and say, hey, let me let them do it for themselves. There have been times where I've seen them struggling at different areas, and I've wanted to jump in and say, all you got to do is that. All you have to. But if I'm going to develop a strategy of secession, trust means that I've got to allow them to exercise the authority in that atmosphere. And so, even if you are training people for new positions in your organization or in your company, at some point, you're going to have to not jump in and say, you know what, that's not, just let me do it. That's okay. It's taking you too long. You asking too many questions. I got it. You're never going to succeed because there's no strategy for secession, because they can't learn the solution. They can't, because you're always the solution. And so we've got to get to a place where, again, whether it's with our children, whether it's in our ministry, whether it's in our company or organization or business, where we allow them to operate, let them use their own judgment. How do we know that a lot of the times we jump in and do it because the truth of the matter is we flunking when it comes to our ability to do part one, train, and part two, track. We've not developed outcome measures in the first point. We don't even have a scope of measurement. We realize, you know what, I didn't teach them that, so let me just do it for them. You know what, I didn't go over that well. You know what, I didn't even understand that part of the process. I just know how I do it, so let me do it. No, we're afraid to let them do it because then if they have questions, we didn't document our own process. So we just out here flunking. And so we just jump up and I got it. I got it. But what we do with that is when we see ourselves at that, we go back to the drawing board. We go back to number one, which is train. Do I have a documented, executable strategy of how to do something? Because if I did not do it, they don't have that resource. I didn't provide an adequate resource. How many times, if we were to be honest about ourselves, whether it was in our childhood or whether it was at a business or company we worked for or a ministry, that we flunked by default because nobody properly trained us, because nobody could tell us how to do something, because nobody could show us the correct way to do it. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, Ebony, and my stylist, and I was saying to her how, back when we were young, the answer to everything was because I said so. Because I said so. As we've grown and matured, we realize that no, that's not enough. That's not enough. If we are going to create a strategy of secession, and again, we understand when it's appropriate. Now, we understand when we're under authority and we're giving orders to do something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if we're training somebody to succeed us, to take over where we're ending so that we can go to the next level, then we need to be able to understand these particular things. I need to train them. It's not just because I said so. Let me tell you why I said this. And let me tell you my method. Let me tell you the mentality around it. I'm so blessed to have the type of relationship with my daughter that I do because I took the time to do this. And so now when I hear her articulate her feelings and when I hear her say, you know what, mom, I love that you taught me when I was younger to honor my emotions, but to arrest my actions and don't let my feelings make me act like a fool. That's a strategy of secession. I said, wait a minute, I trained it. How did I track it? Because every time I would see her getting overwhelmed, I would say, hey, you didn't use my method, did you? No, ma'am. All right, so let's go back to it. Tracked it. And then I had to trust that when she got in those situations. And so I remember her telling me a couple of weeks ago, she said, I'm doing so much better with you. You know how you taught me about active listening and not listening to respond, but listening to actually hear? She said, my friends were talking about something, and I immediately suppressed my need to want to talk with them and put my input in. I said, this isn't about me. Let me listen now and let me see, are they just telling me this because they just want me to hear it? They don't need me to fix it. They don't want my opinion. They just need me to say, oh, that's great. And I said, there you go. I thought that was so amazing, that when we began to take the time and build and develop a strategy of secession, we succeed. We succeed. But because nobody was able to give us these steps and make them make sense for us, a lot of the times we learn things and develop things by default and not design. And so number three is trust. I have to trust. I don't trust that you will never make a mistake. That's not the point. A lot of the times in our business, in our companies, in ministry, we're saying, oh, Lord, they're not going to do it like me. And the answer is absolutely not. They can do it in the spirit that I do it in. They can do it at the level of excellence that I do it in. But no, they're not going to do it like me. They're going to do it like them, or else they would be an impersonator. And we were not put here to create impersonators, right? And so when we don't handle the trust aspect of this strategy, trusting them to use their judgment, trusting them to walk in their own power and authority, trusting them to take the information and the resources that we've given them to make the right decisions, then we don't have a strategy of secession. I hope this is good for y'all. Before I give you this last one, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've just released one of the last master classes that I am personally, for right now, as far as I know, I'm going to put on for the year. It is called Pre-Work for Profits, and it is a master class. That means we're going to have workbooks, and I'm going to be teaching, and I'm going to be giving examples, and I'm going to be demonstrating through a PowerPoint, and you're going to get a chance to ask questions or even get in the hot seat and have the workbooks to go along with it. And this masterclass will be, let's see, how about I'll just find it because I don't want you guys to forget it. Right. So it's going to be Tuesday, October the 19th at 7 p.m. And it's an investment because, as you see tonight, I'm actually going to be giving you implementable strategies. Before you go over into 2022, you need to be able to confront some things. I'm going to show you what you're going to have to be able to confront. You're going to have to be able to confront procrastination and perfectionism. You're going to have to be able to overcome it. I'm going to give you the secret of how to overcome it. And I'm not just talking about emotional stuff, like steps, literal steps and action items to stop. And I know this because, again, if you looked up procrastination in the dictionary, I think you would find a picture of me with a crown on, like, or a tiara, because I was the princess of procrastination. And then perfectionism, needing everything to be so perfect in your purpose. And then I'm actually going to give you a strategy, a 5-step strategy of how to get results. And so if you want to get results coming into next year, you're saying, look, I'm over it. I actually got to see myself profit. Like, I need to be profitable in my ministry, in my business, in my relationships, in my organization. I am going to help you. We're going to work through it. I'm going to have workbooks. We're going to have a PowerPoint. I'm actually going to allow you guys to give me the examples you want me to work through. And then we're going to do a live Q&A. Go to drelisaharney.com. and get your spot, because if it's one thing I love to do is teach. But if you want to be profitable, because we understand that it is the will that we profit, that we are prosperous and profit, but there's some pre-work, there's some stuff you got to do first. And so do the work, put in the work. So if you're ready to put in the work, make sure that you go to drelisaharney.com and get your spot for this master class. Invest in your growth, because it's going to be off the chain. So it's called Pre-Work for Profit. So if you want to be profitable, even in this last level of 2021, but specifically, this is going to be the pre-work for you prospering in 2022. You need to be in this master class. It's going to be so hands-on. I can't wait to teach it. All right. So my last step in this strategy of succession, we dealt with number 1, train, number 2, track, number 3, trust. And the last step of this strategy is transition. Number 4, transition. Now, this is the part that gets us in a place of stagnation. This is where we're not able to shift over to the next level because we get stuck in this part. Transition. The last step of having a successful strategy of succession is transition. That means to reorganize the current structure so that you place the successor in a position to succeed. Right? If you're still in the same place, if you're saying, well, this is my beloved son whom I'm well pleased, this is the person who's going to be managing this now, this is who y'all need to be calling for money now, this is who you need to be going. If you don't reorganize the structure and if you don't realign the way that it currently is, you're going to be right back in that cycle of inertia. You're going to be right back in the cycle of stagnation. And so reorganize the current structure to place the successor in a position where they can succeed. And so if I'm going to say, all right, let's look at it in ministry. Have you ever been in a ministry where the pastor has shifted over to be the senior pastor and then positioned somebody else to now be the pastor, but the senior pastor is still letting everybody come to them? They're still coming up and doing all of the same things in church that they always did. Then what happens is the current pastor just seems like a figurehead. The current pastor just seems like something they put in place every now and again because they didn't realign the current structure to say, all right, so now moving forward, I come in at a place to oversee. I have the spiritual supervision, but this is who you'll now direct these things to. And then I will allow him to come in now because it's unfair to put him in the current structure because he may need new people on the board or new people on the committee that have the vision and the way that he wants to execute. And so if I'm still managing and if I'm still saying use all my people and they already have exactly how I've always done it, do it exactly like that, then I could have just stayed in place. Right? And that's no throw off. I'm just saying I've worked in ministry over 30 something years with pastors and with leaders. And this has been one of the things that has been an issue because we didn't have a strategy of succession. I've seen it in business. I've seen it in business where people say, well, you know, I've upgraded and I'm now the senior leader. And so I'm going to put this person in place, but you're still allowing people to have meetings with you. But you're still letting people come to you and that person says no, but they can go over their head and come to you and then you'll say yes. That's not a strategy for succession. You have to reorganize the current structure so that you can place the successor in a position where they can succeed. Ouch. And so that's what happens a lot of the times in different areas of our lives when it comes to our lack of moving forward and being successful in different areas is because we don't know how to properly position ourselves. Again, sometimes it reveals our unhealthy codependency. It reveals our levels of wanting to be needed and validated. But if we really look at it properly, it releases us to do more. It releases us to even do less. It releases us to be able to focus on the things that are our priority now and not being bogged down with things that our successor can take care of. And so, this has been a free session, a free strategy session that I just wanted to come in because I just felt like for us in life, in leadership, a lot of us are in limbo. because, and we're not able to leverage, is because we don't have a strategy of secession. And so if we are to take these steps, these implementable, executable strategies, and actually use them, we can position ourselves to where we can release, and be able to go into the next level, and knowing and have the comfort and confidence that what we began will not fail, will not falter, and will not flunk. Right, we'll be able to say, you know what, I have great confidence in my successor. Why? Because I had a strategy of succession. I have great confidence in whoever succeeds me. If it's my children, if it's the person in my business, whoever it is, I'm confident about taking my hands off of that and putting my hands on something new, because I know that it will be successful. So I hope that was helpful. You guys let me know in the comment section if this was helpful or needed, and if it's something that you can implement or that you're going to implement. And if there's a certain number, because I'm going to go back and read the comments later, even if you're watching later, if there's one of the numbers, number 1, 2, 3, or 4, that you're saying this is where I'm having the most problem, let me know, because I'm always so interested in helping. And I am a doctor of philosophy, and so I just like teaching strategy. Like, that is my thing. And so I hope that this was something that was beneficial to you all. So thank you all that joined me. Thank you all that shared and tagged. Make sure, if you have not already, secured your ticket and gotten your seat for my last, as I can think of now, masterclass of 2021. You need to do some pre-work before you get into 2022. Do not go into 2022 if you are still operating in cycles of perfectionism and procrastination. Do not go into 2022 if you don't have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy to see results, don't go into 2022 talking about you're getting ready to produce something and you're getting ready to launch something if you don't have those things in place, because you're going to be right back in that cycle of stagnation. So again, the masterclass is October 19th, and we're going to be working. You're going to get e-workbooks. You're going to get a PowerPoint. You're going to be able to engage and interact live, and I'll actually take some of the things you all do and work through the steps so that you can see it done. So make the investment in your now for your next. All right. Thank y'all so much, and I will see y'all next time.